All right. Good morning, everybody. Good to see you guys this morning. Welcome to Live at 11. Hope you guys are all doing well. You might be able to tell from the background that we are not home. We are still up in Wisconsin in East Troy, and directly to my right, that way, there is a lake called Potter's Lake. Too cold to get into, but nice to look at. So hope you guys are having a great week so far. It is, as far as I can tell, it's Hump Day, so we're halfway to Friday. I don't think Fridays mean as much to me now as they used to, because I get to spend all day at home now. But at any rate, hope you're enjoying your day so far. It's really beautiful out there. Actually, out front, I've got a white Jeep out there, and my favorite bird in the whole world is a cardinal. I love cardinals. I love just those, the red cardinals, and I love the female, the brown version of them. I just think they're completely cool. Love them to death. And so I have this dilemma because there is this cardinal. Every time we come up here, I park my Jeep in the same spot right in front of the house, and this cardinal loves to sit on my rear view mirror on the driver's side. And he sits on the rearview mirror, and he hangs out, and then he jumps down and he looks at himself and he pecks at the mirror, and then he poops on the door. And so I've got this dilemma because I absolutely love to watch this guy, but he's wreaking havoc on my driver's side door and on my mirror and things like that. So I still haven't had the audacity to shoo him off. I just get my car washed, but I guess it's a good problem to have, to get to watch my favorite bird, make his home in my or on my car. But at any rate, this morning, sorry, I've got some allergies here. This morning, I was thinking about the choices that we make. And I've been curious. I've been watching this new life that we have been living over the last 7 weeks or so. And originally, I thought that if not all, but if most of our choices were taken away from us, most of our opportunities were taken away because we're sheltering in place, that would automatically mean that our relationship with God would kick into a new level, that we would kick it into a high gear, that we would kind of automatically, by osmosis, get closer to God, because so many of the opportunities that we used to have been taken away. And so we don't have the opportunity to go out to restaurants. We don't have the opportunity to run off to work, many of us. We don't have the opportunity to run our kids all over God's green earth to the sports that they're doing, right? So many of our choices have been taken away, and our lives have been reduced and reduced and reduced down, so that now we have far fewer choices about what to do with ourselves and what to do with our time than we did, say 2 months ago. But I've discovered that doesn't actually mean that we will automatically grow closer to God, just because our choices have become fewer and fewer and fewer. I don't know if you guys saw the movie Monsters, Inc. That's like 20 years old now, which is really, really crazy. But Monsters, Inc. was about these two benevolent monsters who worked as they would go into kids' bedrooms and scare them. And scare was what ran the monsters' city, right? So they would can the kids' scare and run their city. But Mike and Sully were two kind of good guys, two benevolent monsters. But the premise is that they had a way of opening these doors, like thousands and thousands of doors. They could get to any closet door of any kid that they wanted to. And so there was this place in their factory where you could literally see just thousands and thousands of doors lined up all over the place, right? And I want you to imagine for a moment that's kind of like our life. We have all these doors, especially, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, we had all these doors that were available to us, and they would be doors that would open into like Planet Fitness gym. They would open to the Y. They would open to our favorite restaurant. They would open to our favorite clothing stores. They would open to going out with friends, or things like that. All those doors, right? And so we would open those doors and we would go through and we would experience, sorry guys. And so we would get to experience whatever was on the other side of that door. Well, now Many of those doors have been taken away. But the reality is that God still can only be found in the same way that he has always been found, and that is through the door. Jesus said, you guys, he said, if you want to experience God, if you want to find God, you have to ask. You have to knock and you have to seek him, right? He said, seek and you will find him. Knock and the door will be opened. Ask and, he will answer. You will find him, right? And so the only way for us to connect with God is still to seek him. The only way to connect with God is still to knock on that door. And he is on the other side of that door, but he doesn't enter our lives through osmosis. Just because we have far fewer choices, just because the number of doors in the factory of our lives have been reduced from 100 to maybe 4 or 5, God can still only be found on the other side of a door, and we are still required to knock on that door if we want to experience him. And I've kind of come to believe that it could even be binary. Like no matter what, no matter how far down reduced our choices are, we will still have to make a choice for God. We will still have to choose to find him, choose to experience him. We will still have to knock on that door. And so I want to ask you guys, have you been knocking? Right? Because we could just choose Netflix instead of choosing to spend time with God. We could just choose to do any other thing instead of connecting with God. And so I've discovered that in spite of the fact that the conditions are ripe for a connection with God, it doesn't mean that will happen automatically. And I wanted to kind of give you guys a litmus test for your connection with God and for how close you are to him. If you want to think of God as being someone that you can be in proximity to, right? And so we can either be kind of far away from God or we could be really, really, really close to God. I want to give you a litmus test that I think will help you to understand how close in proximity you really are to God right now. And that is, I want us to think of our hearts as the barometer, as the gauge of how close we are to God. And so thinking about like worshiping God and honoring him and giving him the glory that is due to him and worth, and measures up to his worth. God said something really interesting in Isaiah chapter 66. And I want this to kind of speak to our hearts. And I want it to sort of bring revelation about the contents of our heart and how close we are in proximity to him. And so in Isaiah chapter 66, verse 2, Isaiah writes this, and this is God speaking through the prophet Isaiah. And he said this, heaven is my throne and the earth is my footstool. The earth that we live on is the footstool of God. Where is the house that you will build for me, right? Like what kind of house would you build for me? Where will my resting place be? Has not my hand made all of these things? And so they come into being, right? So God is just like establishing the fact that nothing that we do can add to him, that the greatest of creation that we see, those are just like minor things to God. They're like his footstool, the place that he puts his feet onto, right? Where will my resting place be? Has not my hand made all these things? And so they came into being. And then he says this, and this is really cool. These are the ones that I look on with favor, those who are humble and contrite in spirit and who tremble at my word. These are the ones that God looks on with joy, with favor. These are the ones that God blesses, those who are humble and contrite in spirit and those who tremble at his word. And what I want to share with you guys is that the closer that we are to God, the more we will experience two important things. There will be two natural responses to God the closer we get to him. One is an incredible awe, an incredible reverence. It's the fear of God. And it's not like fear, like terror, like we're afraid he's going to hurt us, but it's just a revering, a fear of just the magnitude and the glory and the power of the creator of the universe and the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. When we get near to God, anytime God came into the presence of a human being, usually biblically that person hit the dirt, falling down as if they were dead, the Bible says. Why? Because they came close to the glory of God. And when we get close to God's glory, when we move closer in proximity to him, we will naturally feel awestruck. We will naturally feel almost a reverential fear of God. We'll know, just like Molly has been talking about, that we are walking on holy ground. And so if you don't feel that way, I want to submit to you to look at your own heart, because you may not be as close to him as you think. And secondly, getting close to God will produce a humility in us. We will see the brokenness of our lives. We will see our need for him. We will see where our lives don't measure up to his holiness and the holiness that we were created for. We will see where we have a long ways to go in our sanctification and being more like him. And so my message this morning, guys, is to check our proximity, to check your heart, to find out how close are you really to God. And the reality for us today is that even if so many of our choices have been taken away from us, even if they were reduced down to practically nothing, we will still have to choose God. We will still have to seek. We will still have to knock on that door. But the amazing thing about God is he says, is when you knock, I will open the door. When you seek me, you will find me if you seek me with all of your heart. God wants to be pursued. And when we pursue him, we will come into contact with his greatness and his glory and his majesty, and we will be awestruck by him. And so let that presence or lack of presence of awe in your own heart, let that presence of humility or the lack of humility in your own heart tell you something about where you're at, because there will never be a better time to seek God than right now. The season is perfect for seeking God. The table is set for us. All we have to do is go to it. So I hope that that's helpful to you. I'm praying for you guys. We love you. Thank you for checking in. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks so much, all. Bye-bye. Hmm. Mal?
Sweetie, you're still on YouTube.